like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Well, folks, today we're diving into something that literally shook a lot of us.
Oh, yeah.
This morning. The 7.0 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Northern California.
Right.
I don't know about you, but I definitely felt that one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And those immediate tsunami warnings were a stark reminder of just how powerful nature can be.
For sure.
Thankfully, those warnings were canceled.
Right.
But the whole experience definitely leaves us with a lot of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a significant event, and it's important to understand what happened and why.
Okay, so.
We'll get into all of that and also discuss what this means for us moving forward.
Perfect, because I'm ready to go beyond the headlines.
Okay.
And really dig into the details.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Where exactly did this earthquake hit?
Yeah.
And what made it so intense?
So the epicenter was about 39 miles west of Petrolia, California.
Okay.
Which puts it right on the edge of the continental shelf. And this is a crucial detail. The quake was incredibly shallow.
Oh, wow.
Less than a mile below the Earth's surface.
So basically right under our feet.
Exactly.
That explains why so many people felt it so strongly.
Yeah.
Even those further inland.
Exactly. That shallow depth meant the energy released by the earthquake had less distance to travel before reaching the surface, making the shaking much more pronounced.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk about those tsunami warnings.
Okay.
I have to admit, my heart skipped a beat when I saw those alerts.
Oh, yeah.
Why were they issued in the first place?
Right.
And what led to their cancellation?
Well, the initial concern was completely valid.
Okay.
Given the earthquake's magnitude and its proximity to the coast, there was a real possibility of a tsunami.
Right.
Remember, the San Francisco Bay Area was even included in the warning zone?
Yeah, I remember seeing those maps. It was a pretty wide area.
Yeah.
That was potentially at risk.
Uh-huh.
So what changed?
Well, about an hour later, at 11:54 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the National Tsunami Warning Center canceled the warning.
Okay.
The U.S. Geological Survey determined that this particular earthquake was a strike slip type.
Strike slip. What does that mean exactly?
It means that instead of the tectonic plates moving up and down, which is what usually causes a tsunami,
right,
they slid horizontally past each other. Imagine two ships passing in the night.
Oh, okay.
That's essentially what happened beneath the ocean floor.
Got it.
This type of movement minimizes the vertical displacement of the water column,
right,
which is the primary trigger for tsunamis.
So it was more of a side-to-side shake?
Yeah.
Rather than an up-and-down one?
Precisely. And while that horizontal motion can still cause strong shaking on land, it's much less likely to generate those massive waves we associate with tsunamis.
Okay, that's a huge relief.
Right.
But even without a tsunami,
right,
this earthquake was still pretty scary for those who felt it.
Oh, absolutely. People have described buildings swaying, chandeliers swinging like pendulums, and swimming pools sloshing violently.
I can only imagine. Do we know the extent of the damage caused by the earthquake?
There have been reports of damage to buildings, especially closer to the epicenter.
Okay.
One story that really stood out to me was about a shop in Ferndale, California, called Golden Gate Mercantile.
Okay, what happened there?
The owner, Julie Kreitzer, told the Associated Press that the earthquake caused quite a bit of damage to her store, with merchandise falling off shelves and shattering. It's especially tough considering it's the holiday season.
That's heartbreaking, especially during what should be a busy and joyful time for businesses like hers.
Yeah.
It really brings home the impact of these events on people's lives and livelihoods.
It does, and it's a reminder that earthquakes can strike at any time.
Right.
Often when we least expect them.
Speaking of unexpected events, did you mention aftershocks?
Yes, absolutely. As with most earthquakes, there have been several aftershocks following the main event. Over 20 aftershocks with a magnitude of 2.5 or higher have been recorded so far.
So the Earth is still settling down after that initial jolt.
Yeah.
Is there any way to know how long these aftershocks will continue?
It's difficult to say for sure. Aftershocks can continue for days, weeks, or even months after the main earthquake.
Wow.
It all depends on how the Earth's crust readjusts after that sudden release of energy.
That's a little unnerving.
Yeah.
I live in an earthquake-prone area, And after feeling a big one like this, it's hard not to be a bit on edge wondering if it's truly over.
Right.
Or if there's more to come.
I understand that feeling completely. It's important to remember that this isn't the first time this region has experienced a powerful earthquake.
All right.
Back on June 15, 2005, a magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck a similar area off the coast of Northern California.
Wow, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So this is a region with a history of significant seismic activity.
Absolutely. This latest earthquake is a stark reminder that we live in a dynamic world.
Right.
And those tectonic plates are constantly in motion, sometimes with dramatic consequences.
Okay, this is starting to paint a clearer picture.
Yeah.
We have this powerful earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, no tsunami, but still a lot of shaking and some damage.
Yeah.
And this region has a history of similar events. It's a lot to take in.
It is. And this leads us to some important questions. What does this earthquake tell us about the bigger picture of seismic activity in this region? And how can we use this knowledge to be better prepared for future events?
Those are excellent questions, and I'm eager to explore them further.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to delve into the science behind these tremors
Okay.
and understand what makes this region so prone to earthquakes.
I agree. Let's shift our focus to the mechanics of tectonic plates and explore the forces at play along the California coastline.
Sounds good to me.
Oh.
All right, we're back and ready to delve into the science behind this earthquake. I have to admit, I'm fascinated by the whole concept of tectonic plates.
Yeah.
And how they shape our world. It's almost like a giant puzzle.
Right.
Constantly shifting and rearranging itself.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's key to understanding why certain regions like California experience so much seismic activity.
Okay.
To really grasp this, we need to talk about the infamous San Andreas Fault.
Okay, the San Andreas Fault, the big kahuna. I've heard about it my whole life.
Right.
But honestly, my knowledge is pretty surface level.
Okay.
Can you break it down for us?
Okay.
What makes it so significant in the world of earthquakes?
Well, imagine a massive crack running through the Earth's crust.
Okay.
A boundary between two giant tectonic plates.
Okay.
The Pacific Plate and the North American Plate.
Right.
These plates are constantly pushing against each other, building up immense pressure over time.
So it's like a slow motion collision happening right beneath our feet.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Now, this pressure isn't released gradually. It builds up until it exceeds the friction holding the plates together.
Right.
And when that happens...
Speaking of earthquake.
Exactly. That sudden release of energy causes the ground to shake.
Right.
Which is what we experience as an earthquake. Now, the San Andreas Fault is a complex system.
Not just a single crack. It's actually a network of interconnected faults that weave their way through California.
So it's not just one fault line, but a whole system of cracks all linked together that makes it even more unsettling, doesn't it?
It does add another layer of complexity.
Right.
And while this particular earthquake didn't occur directly on the main San Andreas fault line, it happened on one of its associated faults.
So even these smaller faults can pack a punch.
Absolutely. They can still generate significant earthquakes as we've seen today.
Right.
And it's important to remember that the entire California coastline is a zone of intense pressure and friction because of the Pacific Plate's movement.
Hold on, can you explain that a bit more?
Sure.
How exactly is the Pacific Plate moving, and why does that create so much pressure?
The Pacific Plate, which lies beneath the Pacific Ocean, is moving northwestward relative to the North American Plate. Think of it like two massive pieces of sandpaper rubbing against each other.
Yeah, I got you. That constant grinding creates stress along the entire boundary, making California one of the most seismically active regions in the world.
Okay, that sandpaper analogy really helps me visualize it. So basically, we're living on a giant, slow-moving conveyor belt that's prone to sudden jolts and shifts.
That's a vivid way to put it.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty accurate description of what's happening beneath the surface.
Okay.
And the fact that this recent earthquake was a strike slip type, where the plates slid horizontally, is quite typical for this region.
So this type of earthquake where the plates slide sideways is the most common along the California coast.
It is.
That seems like an important piece of information.
It is. It's a signature of the San Andreas Fault system.
Okay.
And while we can't predict exactly when or where the next earthquake will occur, understanding these patterns and the mechanics of plate tectonics helps us assess the risks and take steps to mitigate them.
That brings up a question I've always wondered about.
Yeah.
Can scientists predict when the next big one will hit?
Okay.
You know, the massive earthquake that everyone always talks about?
Yeah.
Is there any way to know when that might happen?
Unfortunately, predicting earthquakes with pinpoint accuracy is still beyond our current scientific capabilities.
Oh, okay.
We can't say precisely when or where the next major earthquake will occur.
Right.
However, we're not completely in the dark.
So it's not about predicting the unpredictable, but more about understanding the risks and probabilities.
Exactly. We can study historical patterns,
Okay.
monitor seismic activity, and analyze geological data to assess the likelihood of future events.
Right.
And while we can't pinpoint the exact date and time,
Right.
this information is crucial for preparedness and mitigation efforts.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's about assessing the odds and being as prepared as possible for a range of possibilities.
Precisely. And that's why it's so important for individuals and communities in earthquake-prone regions like California to take steps to prepare for these inevitable events.
Okay.
We might not know when the next big one will strike,
Right.
but we can certainly take measures to mitigate its impact.
That's a really important point, and it leads us to what I think is the most crucial part of this conversation.
Okay.
What does preparedness actually look like?
Yeah.
What concrete steps can we take to protect ourselves and our loved ones?
I'm glad you asked that, because that's exactly where I think we should head next.
Okay.
Let's shift gears from understanding the science to exploring practical steps for earthquake preparedness.
Let's do it. This is information that everyone living in an earthquake-prone area needs to hear. Okay, so we've covered the science behind earthquakes and the reality that living in California means accepting a certain level of risk.
Right.
But let's talk about what we can control.
Okay.
Being prepared. Where do we even begin? What are some tangible steps we can take to feel more ready for the next earthquake?
That's the right mindset to have.
Yep.
We can't prevent earthquakes, but we can absolutely take steps to minimize their impact on our lives.
Okay.
And it starts with our homes. Think of it like earthquake-proofing your space.
Earthquake-proofing?
Yeah.
Huh. That sounds pretty intense.
It's not as daunting as it might seem.
Okay.
A lot of it is common sense.
Okay.
For example, make sure heavy furniture like bookshelves and mirrors are securely fastened to the wall. Anything that could fall and cause injury during shaking needs to be secured.
Right. I've seen videos of those bookshelf domino effects during earthquakes.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not something I want to experience firsthand.
Exactly. And while you're at it, take a look around your home
Okay.
and identify safe spots. Sturdy tables you can duck under, interior doorways. These can offer some protection during shaking.
Right. Those drop cover and hold on drills we all learned in school.
Yeah.
Are those still the go-to move?
Absolutely. Those drills are more than just routines.
Okay.
They're life-saving techniques backed by years of research and experience.
Okay.
And speaking of being prepared, let's talk about emergency kits.
Okay. Emergency kits. What should those include?
This is crucial. You need enough water and non-perishable food for each person in your household to last at least 72 hours.
Okay.
Maybe even longer. Think about what you would need to survive if basic services like water, electricity, and gas were disrupted.
72 hours.
Yeah.
Wow, I hadn't really considered needing to be self-sufficient for that long.
It's always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Right.
Especially in a situation like an earthquake where the aftermath can be unpredictable.
Okay.
And don't forget, essential medications, copies of important documents, cash, and a way to charge your phone.
Okay, that's a pretty extensive list.
Yeah.
Anything else we should keep in mind when putting these kits together?
A first aid kit is essential, and don't forget a whistle to signal for help if you're trapped.
Okay.
It's also a good idea to have a hand crank weather radio to stay informed if power is out.
Those are great additions.
Yeah.
I'm starting to realize that building one of these kits is a project in itself, but a worthwhile one for sure. Is there anything else we should be doing beyond securing our homes and putting together these emergency kits?
Communication is key. Have a plan in place with your family and loved ones.
Okay.
Designate a meeting place if you get separated during an earthquake.
Right.
And make sure everyone knows important contact numbers.
That makes sense. Cell service can be unreliable after a major earthquake, right?
Exactly. Landlines might be down as well. So having a backup plan for communication is essential.
Okay.
Also, this might sound obvious, but know the evacuation routes from your homework and any other places you frequent.
It's funny how those things can seem so obvious until you're in a panic and trying to remember them under pressure.
Absolutely. And remember, preparedness is an ongoing process, not a one-time task.
Right.
Regularly check your emergency kit, refresh your supplies, practice those drills, and stay informed about earthquake safety tips.
Okay.
There are excellent resources available online and through local organizations.
So it's about building those safety habits into our routines and making them second nature.
Exactly. And being prepared isn't just about protecting yourself.
Right.
It's also about helping your community.
Oh, heck yeah.
Check on your neighbors, especially elderly or vulnerable individuals who might need extra support.
That's a great reminder. We're all in this together, and helping each other is crucial, especially in times of crisis.
I couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this earthquake, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
While earthquakes can be incredibly powerful and disruptive forces,
Right.
we don't have to feel powerless against them. By understanding the science, taking practical steps to prepare, and fostering a sense of community,
Right.
we can face these challenges with greater resilience and a shared sense of responsibility.
That's a great note to end on. It's
Yeah.
been a fascinating and honestly a bit sobering conversation.
Yeah.
But it's left me feeling empowered rather than overwhelmed.
Good.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Yeah.
And now we have the tools and information to be better prepared for whatever Mother Nature throws our way.
Yeah.
And with that, it's time for us to sign off. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the heart-stopping moment of the earthquake itself to the science behind those shifting plates, and most importantly, the concrete steps we can all take to be prepared. Stay safe out there, folks, and remember, we're in this together. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have the ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.